I am Andrew, and I am here to talk about a tiki bar that I am spending almost all my free time constructing. Um, yeah,
What was inspiring you to make a tiki bar?
um, I've always had a bit of an obsession with cocktails and bar culture, and tiki in particular, uh, just because it's such a weird artifice. Um, it's like a simulacra, like because it's taking bits and pieces of like these cultures and not imitating them, not stealing them, but like essentially somebody looked at them for maybe about 20 minutes and they're like, yeah, I could do something like that, and then try to like emulate the feeling of it. So it's all like one big fake thing, all founded in escapism, which I think is very alluring about that. It's like just as artificial and fake as a lot of the sweeteners and a lot of the drinks, even though I don't prefer those drinks, but a lot of the drinks that people associate with tiki are gross.
You think they're gross
Yeah.
as I sip my margarita out of a pineapple. Um, so, okay. So basically, what you're saying is you looked at tiki culture also for 20 minutes and was like, I could construct a bar in my backyard.
More than that, but yeah, I wanted to go at it somewhat blind, like it's sort of like an exploration of construction techniques as well, um, and drawing upon a lot of the influence of Raleigh Crump, who is a painter, and he was one of the original Imagineers for Disney, and he was in charge of a lot of the Enchanted Tiki Bar or Enchanted Tiki Room
Okay.
at Disneyland and Disney World. And I've been reading um, his autobiography as well as just like looking through different interviews with him, and it's really funny hearing his process with designing a lot of that. And then also reading Martin Cate's book, who is a Bay Area legend. He started Smuggler's Cove and Forbidden Island up in Alameda, both of which are, excuse me, highly regarded tiki bars. And he really helped bring it back into the limelight because he was riding on this thunder of the resurgence of craft cocktails and that sort of movement that was happening in like the early 2000s. So he was making a bunch of like house-made syrups and everything, which drew a lot of attention because once again, like when people were thinking of tiki, they were thinking purely of kitsch.
Right.
And that is something that I do love about it, is like it is this kitschy, tacky, fake thing. But then at the same time, it's like very genuine because it's
Right.
rooted in the desire to escape. And so like that's a very real feeling that everyone has. So like,
And it's taken on this kind of design culture of its own where there are things that are more genuine and feel more correct about certain things. Um, so I guess my next question would be like, if one were to go about constructing their own tiki bar, where would they begin other than doing the research that you've done?
oh man, I think it's like, so I feel like I'm going at it in probably one of the more complicated, one of the most complicated ways, because like it's very easy to like sort of do sort of collage work where you like go to thrift stores, you find old pieces, you really try to put them together and like sort of make a coherent story of what the space is. However, I've been wanting to build something for a while, like something large, like I worked on some large like art collective, and so wanted to try my hand at like doing something by myself, and following a lot of prop makers on Instagram and seeing a bunch of their work and like their processes. I'm just like, oh yeah, no, I want to take a stab at that. So I am doing it way more complicated than anyone should probably.
What have been some of your more surprising experiences with it, or anything that's like a challenge you didn't expect or bump in the
Um,
road?
it's always like the order of process. That's always like what catches you, because you think about like how you're gonna do something, right? Like for any project, you're like, oh yeah, and then that, yeah, I'll get to that when I get to it. Like it should be fine. And the next thing you know, you're like at this crossing the roads, and you're like, oh shit, like I don't even know how I'm gonna like attach this piece to this piece now, because this piece is like covered by something else that I can't move. So it is funny because now I have like this 9 foot tall polyurethane foam idol in my girlfriend's light well. Uh, and like I have to figure out, because it's off the wall that I want it to be flush again. So I have to figure out like, okay, I know I have to cover this thing in plaster and mortar at some point and paint it. But the second I do that, like it's going to make it 10 times heavier than it actually is.
Right.
It's just like, okay, at what point do I have to move it back? But at the same time, it's just like, I have to think about the wire management, because there's LEDs in the eyes and the mouth. And it's just like, okay, so like I have to figure out the wire management. And then from there, maybe I can move it back. But then also at the same time, like I have to put some weights in the base of it. Otherwise, it's going to be top heavy and probably fall on someone. Knock on wood. Probably won't happen.
So
But yeah,
your
so
life is like a Mythbusters episode, basically, and you're just like free wielding this giant idol. Wow, incredible. Do you find yourself enjoying this process as it's going on, or are you just like stressed and kind of done with it?
it's always stress. But I feel like I always thrive in a low level of stress, and that's why I do this to myself. Uh, it was funny because like while I was working on it, I'm talking to my partner, and I'm just like, like some people have like stress-free hobbies, like they go for hikes or like they rock climb, and I'm like, why am I doing this? Like, this is so unnecessary. But then at the same time, like, there's so much joy in like making something, and then also like to make something that you didn't think you could have. Like that's super rewarding. And like, yeah, it's taking a lot of the skills that like I learned when I was in art school and blowing them up to the nth degree of like going from working in these small scale models using polyurethane foam, and now like combining that with some of like the skills I learned like making furniture, and then blowing it up to 9 feet and like making it structural and making it all come together. It's like it's very rewarding, but also at the same time like it is very
The
anxiety
last couple
inducing.
minutes here, do you want to talk about like your maker's like process and what inspires you, and just kind of general philosophical thoughts?
Oof. Um, I mean, I think some of the stuff that inspires me the most is just like bootleg culture, and just like recreation. Like it's a very thin line between just straight up stealing something and then doing something that's like an homage or like, and a lot of it comes through tone. Like I don't want everyone to be stealing everyone's work. Absolutely not. But there's something very endearing like when like someone does a bootleg of something. Like it is like flattery to the highest form. And I think as long as like the creator of like bootlegs and stuff like that, like acknowledges that as much, like there's no sort of misconception of like, this is an original thing that I'm making. As long as they're like, no, this is 100% is like fully inspired and ripped off of this, but like this is my take on it. I think that's interesting because like everyone does have creative block, and it is important to like feed off of each other and feed into each other. And I think that's incredibly important to the creative process. But like being self-aware of it is a huge part, because like, there's the whole like everything is a remix, nothing is original. Every thought you've had has been had before. So like embracing that. And I think, yeah, it's sort of what keeps me going is like think about what I'm bringing to the table and like the fresh take I can bring to some well-trodden territory.
Cool. Well, on that note, thank you for having this conversation, and it's
Yeah.
always great to catch up with you.
Yeah. It was way faster than I thought it would be.